With the 2024 election cycle heating up, a battle over the ballot could soon head to the Supreme Court. 10 Investigates' Emerald Morrow breaks down a challenge to the Voting Rights Act that could impact how your vote is protected here at home. She sits down exclusively with a national leader from our area working to keep the landmark civil rights legislation intact.
The year 1965. Location, Selma, Alabama. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was supporting black residents in their push for voter rights.
I want the words that are there.
Literacy tests and poll taxes remained a common hurdle for black voters. A bloodied John Lewis had just been beaten marching for the ballot. And seeing the violence against peaceful protesters, months later, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. President Johnson signed it into law.
We need the protection of the Voting Rights Act that was provided in 1965 and that people bled and died for.
Meet Leon Russell. He lives in Tampa and chairs the National NAACP Board of Directors. The civil rights organization is right now fighting desperately to save a key portion in the act.
If Section 2 of the act is taken away by the courts, it basically eliminates the good impact of the Voting Rights Act.
For decades, groups like the NAACP have been able to sue under Section 2, which prohibits voting qualifications and practices that deny voting rights based on race. And in Arkansas, the NAACP challenged a House redistricting plan the group says dilutes black voting power. But just last week, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals said it will not rehear that case, where a 3-judge panel ruled not on who was right or wrong, but whether the NAACP even had the right to sue. That panel said in November, private parties cannot enforce Section 2. The enforcement power belonged solely to the Attorney General.
Justice can come in, but it's up to groups like the NAACP, the Lawyers Committee, the Legal Defense Fund, to really get out there and be private attorneys general, if you will, to help protect the rights of citizens.
But with court questions on whether the 1965 Congress, quote, clearly intended for private groups to sue, Russell says the landmark civil rights legislation is in jeopardy. A conviction that could land this case in front of the Supreme Court if the Arkansas State Conference NAACP appeals the latest ruling.
We know it's a 6-3 conservative court, so most people would think that this may be in danger.
Here in Florida, we've seen a myriad of changes to voting laws in recent years, including restrictions on first-time voters, third-party registration groups, and vote-by-mail ballots. Some say this burdens voters. Others say the opposite.
So right now I have what we think is the strongest election integrity measures in the country. I'm actually going to sign it right here. It's going to take effect.
But like in Arkansas, where there's pushback over redistricting, Florida is having its own battle. The state Supreme Court says it will now hear a case on the constitutionality of a redistricting plan that plaintiffs say violates the state's Fair Districts Amendment. It says you cannot draw districts that keep minority voters from electing who they want.
They dismantled the district in North Florida of Al Lawson, an African-American who had an African-American district, to turn it into more Republican district throughout the state.
We are not going to have a 200-mile gerrymander that divvies up people based on the color of their skin.
Dr. Kareem Creighton of the Brennan Center says that statement needs some context.
That's quite an exaggeration to say that a district drawn to allow minority voters an opportunity to elect is per se a gerrymander. In fact, right now, we've got a court saying on the record that what the governor is drawing is a gerrymander.
We need the Voting Rights Act intact, and we need the Congress to move on it now.
Emerald Morrow, 10 Investigates.
And right now, the decision from the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals only applies in these states right here. But if the Supreme Court does hear the case, there could be a nationwide impact.